Hey, and today's question, who should you spar with? I feel we could ask a slightly better question because better questions get better answers. Who should you spar with to help you improve the most? Now, when we talk about our potential opportunities, hey, we've got people that are a higher level than you, people that are a lower level than you. The way you could split up your training, you could train the majority of the time with people that are better than you. You can train the majority of the time with people that are lower level, or you could sort of split it even 50-50. I thought it would be interesting to see what are some experts saying about this. So the experts will have a look at, on the right-hand side, famed jiu-jitsu coach John Danaher, and then in the gi there we've got famed jiu-jitsu player Roger Gracie. Now, in an interview, Danaher goes on to say, I always believe that around 80% of your training should be with significantly lower level people than yourself, so you can practice new techniques and you can expand your repertoire. You can't do these things when you go to the nail with someone of your own skill level. Now, Danaher brings up some really interesting points. He's all about expanding your repertoire as an important concept for him. What he says is that if you are continually sparring against people that are your own level or better, you're just going to rely on your small amount of tried and tested moves. Because if you go outside of those tried and tested moves and try something new, the consequences are going to be quite high. So we just stick to our small known moves, never get a chance to expand our repertoire. He likens learning new moves. Danaher says learning a new move is like releasing a cub onto the Serengeti plains. Now, the cub has the potential to be the king of the plains, but it needs to be nurtured until it gets to that mature stage. That's how Danaher views introducing new moves into your game. Nurture them like a cub against less skilled opponents until they get the maturity that you can release them against same skilled opponents, all right? Now, he also makes another important point. If you continually spar against people that are of higher level than you, you develop a very lopsided game. You develop a game that is very defensive. Now, it's super important to be able to defend. Okay, it's a very important part of jiu-jitsu, but there's a flip side to that. We also need to be offensive. You need to be able to actually finish your opponent. And that won't happen at the levels where you're sparring with higher level people, because quite often you're on the back foot all the time playing defense. Now, there is a little caveat. If we are competing, Danaher does recommend that you, as you go through your training, getting closer to competition, you do start sparring with people that are at your level or better. Now, what's interesting is Roger Gracie did a very extensive interview with Lex Friedman, and they covered this topic, improved by training BJJ with lower ranks. Roger goes on to tell the story that when he first moved to England, opened his academy, he didn't have many high-level people to train with. He just had lower-level belts to spar with. Now, he was preparing for the World Championships. He was able to prepare very successfully, and at that World Championships, I believe he actually finished all 10 opponents I think he had. So he's like 10 for 10 submitting all black belts at the World Championships. And that brought up the question, people were saying, well, how did you train for this high level competition? And when they found out he was training with lower belts, people were dumbfounded and couldn't understand how this was possible. Roger goes on to describe in the story that he had a repertoire of moves, and sparring all the time with people of a lower level than him, he was able to refine and sharpen these moves and get very, very good at them. Now, my own personal experience, if I can drop my 2 cents in this, when I started jiu-jitsu, I started at a small academy that did not have many beginners, and it had some really experienced, skilled students. I spent a lot of time sparring with skilled and experienced students, a lot of time playing, doing guard passing, because the higher students just wanted to work on guard. So, really good for me, got a good foundation in guard passing, okay? But just like Danaher described, I had some really big gaping holes. I did not get a lot of time at practicing offense, okay, because I rarely was able to pass the guard of these higher students. So I couldn't really practice offense and control. Practicing guard was basically non-existent because they were so good that I didn't really get to spend much time practicing guard. My guard would get passed very quickly. Now, I also got to experience things on the other end when I joined a different academy and I was a more experienced student, and we had a very large pool of beginners and not so many experienced students. So I got a chance to practice all the stuff that I needed to practice, to add things to my repertoire, to work on things that I needed to, and to hone those skills. And I found that extremely beneficial to fill a lot of holes in my game, to add things that I wanted to add new moves, and to get better at the moves that the small amount of moves that I knew. Now, if I didn't go through that personal experience and experience it firsthand, I would have thought Danaher's initial comment was, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have thought, hey, you know what? You just need to go out there and you need to get smashed and you've got to wrestle higher level people and they're going to grind you and all that kind of stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, you do need to pay your dues. You've got to wrestle higher people, so they call you out on their mistakes. You can experience what proper jiu-jitsu feels like, pressure, tightness, and technique and everything like that. But when we talk about our overall development, I've really got to agree with Danaher and Hodger that lower level majority of sparring is the way to go. And like I mentioned, I experienced it firsthand, found it tremendously beneficial. So when we're looking at that, we've got those two choices: people higher level than you, people lower level than you. We want to think about stuff a minority of time, say like 20%, want to be training with people that are higher level than you, and a majority of time spending that with training people that are of a lower level than you. I believe that this will give you the best balance to improve your jiu-jitsu the fastest. Now, I'd be interested to know what you think about this theory, okay, what you've experienced. Leave your comments down below and I'll check it out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll speak to you soon.